What's up, guys? With Scream 6 behind us and Evil Dead Rise fastly approaching, I figured in this little window, I want to knock out a couple of reviews to recommend some things, some newer things, and maybe some older things that I want you guys to check out, okay? So this first one is one that I actually got in the recent horror pack, and I'd watched it a couple years ago. It's called Open 24 Hours. I think it's definitely worth your time. So let's chalk this up to another episode of why in the hell are people not talking about this movie? Let's go. Open 24 Hours stars Vanessa Grassi, Brendan Fletcher, and is directed by Padraig Reynolds. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Why in the Hell is No One Talking About This Movie? And I'm happy to be covering this one. This is Open 24 Hours. I saw this movie, I want to say 2 years ago, something like that. I was browsing through Amazon. I think it was Amazon, and it showed up on there. It was one of those, like, if you like this movie, then you'll like this movie. I can't remember, but I stumbled upon it and I ended up watching it. And my initial response to this movie, because I've watched it twice now, was that was so refreshing, and the final act is riveting.
This place is in the middle of nowhere.
Are you sure you want to work here? I don't really have a choice.
Raindrops, so many raindrops.
I told you I was real.
So anyway, if you remember my last Drumbox video, I did the horror pack. Open 24 Hours is in there, and that sparked me wanting to watch this movie again and possibly review it. And I did, and here we are reviewing it, and I'm glad, because I don't ever hear too many people talking about this movie, but I think it has a lot going for it, you know. It's kind of a hybrid of things too, which we'll get into. But really looking forward to diving into this movie, okay? And going forward, let me just say this too, because I know a lot of you probably haven't seen this movie. So the first half to maybe 3/4 of this review is going to be non-spoiler type stuff. But there might be some light spoilerous type stuff in, I guess, the final act of this review. But I will give you a warning, okay? So no worries, stay here, and I'll let you know when, okay, I don't think I want you to know this type stuff. But I'll tell you right now, I'm definitely giving this a recommended watch, okay? Know that going into this. I'm not giving this a bad review. Anyway, first off, quick plot synopsis. Our main character of Open 24 Hours is Mary, played by Vanessa Grassi. She looked familiar. You might remember her from Leatherface, which this kind of made me want to go back and give that another watch, because I only watched it like once, I think. Just because she's a really good actress, okay? And just to wedge in here, she is of English descent. She's from London. I would have never guessed that watching this movie. I would have swore that she was probably from the Midwest or California or something like that. Her accent is so on point when it comes to an American accent. But, you know, the whole premise of this movie is it takes place in a convenience store. And she gets this job, and she's trying to put her life back together because she just got out of this relationship that was very much Stockholm Syndrome-ish. The guy that she was with, he murdered something like 30 women, or it might even be just 30 people. I can't remember if it's women or people, but the worst thing is she had to like watch most of these victims get killed, which can completely screw you up as a person. You know, you get all this regret, you get all these people judging you, and it's just a tough situation. And fear is a real thing, people. And I think people do get in situations like this. It has happened, for fact. So this is a person that's completely messed up mentally. But to make matters even worse, her boyfriend, the killer, is still out there, okay? And she's actually having visions of him throughout the movie. This isn't one of those movies where you're trying to guess, is that really there or is it not? No, it's pretty much established that she's definitely seeing things that couldn't possibly be there. You'll notice that all along. But what makes it really great is that, of course, the boyfriend comes back into the picture. He's got like a half-burned face. Really good killer, actually. Reminded me a little bit of Bruce Willis from Unbreakable. you know, the get up that he has. But there's a scene in the movie where she's, you know, doing her job, and then he confronts her, comes up to the register, and he says, I can kill, and you are not gonna know if I'm really here or not because you're so screwed up in the head, and nobody will believe you. So there's definitely some things I wanna dig into psychologically with this review to stress how effective I think this movie is. And by the way, very low budget film. You know, this isn't a big major studio doing this movie, and it just looks gorgeous. But before I jump into that, there is this side character, Bobby. He already works at the convenience store. He kind of gives her some half-assed training at the beginning. But the thing I love about this is Bobby is played by Brendan Fletcher from Freddy vs. Jason. And as a matter of fact, Padraig Reynolds, the director, he sought him out because of Freddy vs. Jason. He sought out Vanessa Grassi because of Leatherface. He was just looking for, I guess, for lack of a better word, inexpensive actors that he could work with, that he actually enjoys their work. And I think that's one of the kudos that this movie has going for it. You have really strong actors doing this role in this one location. Brendan Fletcher just oozes charisma. He just has that quality that most actors don't have and probably won't have no matter how hard they try at the craft. He's just so likable. He just chews up scenery and you can't help but enjoy watching him work. Now, I know this is a stretch, but to me, he has almost like that Michael J. Fox factor. Now, also, let's go into a little bit of the behind the scenes on this, the backstory. Padraig Reynolds, the director, this is an idea that he had. He wrote the script for this like 6 years ago, or 6 years before the movie was actually made. And he saw this convenience store, this old rundown looking convenience store in Mississippi, which that really stuck out to me because I happen to be from Mississippi. I grew up in Mississippi before I joined the military, 18 years. And I agree, there are some really rundown looking places in Mississippi. Oh boy. I think he originally planned on shooting this in Mississippi, but he ended up recreating the shop, or just kind of like the front of it, whatever you need to, you know, put in the frame, right? He didn't create an actual entire convenience store. But he created it in Serbia, Belgrade, and you would not be able to tell. And so when I was watching the behind the scenes and I started noticing all these different accents pop up, that's one of the advantages in shooting in these unlikely locations. You know, you can pull talent from other countries, which is what they did. And it's usually cheaper to shoot in those places. You know, because like I said, there's very little of this movie outside of the convenience store. I mean, you could look at it as almost like the horror Clerks, even though the dialogue is not that type of dialogue at all. It is story focused. It's about this girl with her major psychological issues with her boyfriend, James. Very few characters in the movie. She has this friend named Debbie. You know, they've been childhood friends. Debbie's always been there for her. And, you know, it says a lot of a person to befriend somebody that is, let's face it, hated by a lot of people, because this is a story, of course, that would receive national coverage. So she's almost like in hiding and trying to get her life back together. Now, at face value, you would see this as almost like a home invasion, even though it's not in a home, it's a convenience store with some slasher elements. And there are definitely some slasher elements in this movie in terms of the violence. The killer has a signature weapon, a hammer, very simple, and he uses the hammer to get the job done. The way the violence is handled in this movie is very matter of fact and very realistic. And at the end of the day, it just feels real. It doesn't feel like, say, a Friday the 13th type kill, you know, like super creative. No, this isn't about that. This is a true psychological thriller of a movie. And the good thing is you love these characters. You really get into these characters. And so when the third act comes along and all this crazy stuff starts happening, it's just that much more impactful. And it's intense, guys. It's really intense. It's a very intense third act. And Mary is just the type of character that you root for. Even though you know she's tainted, she has this really rough past, you can't help but like her because there's enough information there in terms of not only the dialogue, but also the performance by Vanessa Grassi to make you see that this is a genuine person and these people exist. Good people make bad decisions because of fear or because of whatever. They're just vulnerable, you know? And so you want her to get out of this mess so bad. Okay, now this is where I'm gonna get into some like mild, very mild spoilers. I'm not gonna tell you the ending of the movie or anything like that, But there are some things that I would like to stress why I think this movie is really good. But I want you guys to go into this not knowing that much. So I would say from this point on, if you don't want to know anything, then go ahead and get out of here. But if you're one of those people that likes to know a lot about a movie and you can still enjoy it, then stick around. So anyway, jumping in, now this isn't a full-blown spoiler review, okay? So I'm not gonna start going step by step on this is what happens in the last act. No, but what I did want to stress was that this isn't set up like a slasher movie where there's a kill every 15 minutes or something like that. There are violent acts that do happen along the way, but again, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's just not that type of movie. This is, some would say, like a slow burn. And I think there's a definite difference between a slow burn and a boring movie. This is not boring at all. It's just constant tension building upon itself. But also, this is definitely a head scratcher in certain parts of the final act where you're asking, is that real or is it not real? There are people that are going to come into the story that you're not 100% sure if they are actually there. And I love that about this movie. You know, it's like I said, it's a mixing of genres. Some of the scenes are very nightmarish, like dreamlike in nature. And I think that's the reason why the cinematographer went with the color palette of like greens and oranges throughout this movie. One, it's just very beautiful to look at. Two, it's great for this type of film, a psychological thriller. And three, it just adds to that dreamlike quality that the movie has. I think the final act in this movie, again, without giving anything away, I like how kind of everything comes to a head. And really, this is the part where the killer, you will know how dangerous he is in this final act. And really sending home just how much control he has over Mary still, even after he's been out of her life. Now, I will say the theatrical ending of this movie, and it's really kind of a coda. Like, the actual ending is the same, but there is like an alternate scene, alternate ending that you can check out on the Blu-ray, which I would definitely check out because I watched that scene and I was like, that's how they should have ended it. I think that would have been much more impactful. But instead, they had to kind of tack on this cliche, and I don't want to say anything else. You'll know what I'm talking about. But it's just, I don't like the ending of this movie. All right, the very, very ending. I like the way everything plays out. I love the final act. But that little last stinger scene that they threw on there, I didn't think was necessary at all. But guys, in the end, for a rating, I'm going to give this movie like a low purchase worthy. I think it's highly worth your time. I would even say pick up the Blu-ray. It's probably not that expensive. Like I said, this is a lower budget type film, but it doesn't feel low budget. It feels very professional. And I think Patrick Reynolds is a great director, actually. He achieved the goal that he went for with this movie, and that's why I wanted to review it, because I want more people to check out Open 24 Hours. Really effective little thriller. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought of Open 24 Hours. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. On Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums and on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Drumdum out.